Hi there, I'm Mary B, and this is my podcast, Something's Gotta Give. And today's episode is going to be a letter to every version of myself that I've been throughout my 20s because my 30th birthday is on Wednesday, and it's a monumental one and one that I've anticipated throughout my entire 20s. And these months leading up to this birthday, I found myself being quite critical of my behaviors and the relationships that I participated in and the cycles that I continuously perpetuated. I was unhappy, and I found myself looking at the glass half empty and not being kind or loving to myself whatsoever. And perspective is everything, right? So I chose to look at the glass half full and give myself grace and honor every version that I've been, and know that if those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I consider myself to be the best version I've ever been. And the past makes who you are, right? So I can't have my regrets, and I can't wish I did things differently, because I could very well be a different person today. And I don't want to be anybody else besides myself. So I have to trust that everything happens for a reason, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's much easier said than done. But I can confidently say that it feels really good to be in this body, to have the wisdom that I have, and to know that those experiences have allowed me to be so understanding and have so much patience for others, and see that everything takes time. And there is no right way to do life. There is no right way to do life. I hate that there's this like pressure from society that you have to have a certain type of car, or live in a certain type of space, or attain a certain type of job, or your family has to look a certain way, or it just etc. There's the list goes on of the societal pressures that we feel as human beings, and I started to really feel like I wasn't meeting these absurd expectations because I'm 30 and I might not be married yet, or I don't have a house yet. But does that mean I'm not successful in my own way because I don't have what Sally Mae tells me I should have? That is just not true, and I know that's not true. So why am I being so harsh on myself, as if I'm not doing just enough, as if I'm not right where I'm supposed to be, you know? And I feel like in your 20s there's like this pressure to just have everything figured out. You know, you have to know what career you're going to be in. You have to know to be disciplined, and that it's really important to stick to your goals, and you have to eat right, and you have to exercise, and you just have to. And the truth is I didn't. I didn't do nothing right. If we're looking at like this quote unquote blueprint that you should be following in your 20s, I lost my crap in my 20s. I finally got my freedom. I finally got free from all of the chaos that was my childhood. And when I got freedom, I abused the heck out of it. I didn't want to do any of the things I knew I should have been doing to quote unquote be in a better position, right? I partied my butt away. I was traveling. I opened up my house to all of my friends. I engaged in way too many relationships that were unfulfilling. I became an alcoholic. I abused weed. I ran from myself. And I just stayed in the service industry because it was comfortable and I didn't know what else to do. I needed money, and I needed money ASAP, and I needed to be able to self-sustain this like lifestyle that I was creating. And like by the time I turned 27, I got a DUI, and Lord knows that was 10 grand out of my pocket. So when I started to kind of just become worse in my addictions, my lifestyle wouldn't even allow me to start new at a new field. So I just had to keep waitressing, and I found myself like, why am I still waitressing at this job? I should be CEO of something. But realistically, Mary, you don't want to work in corporate America. I couldn't work in corporate America if I tried. And it's okay if you do. I just know myself. And I think the most important thing is to know yourself and to know what works for you, right? So waitressing works for me at the current moment in time, and it's worked for me throughout my 20s. So why am I so upset at something that's allowed me to live? That's a little mean, right? That's not nice. That's not being understanding of everything that was going on in my life, right? And a big thing that had to happen in my 20s was my stage of healing. So I would say 21 through 26, I was letting my inner child and my trauma just drive this avatar of my body. So I found myself engaging in friendships that treated me as if I was invisible, or I wasn't seen the way I needed to be seen and understood the way I deserved to be understood. I found myself not only being in relationships of domestic abuse, verbally and physically. I found myself being with people who lied and cheated, and also being the one who lied and cheated. I found myself not being able to be stable and consistent within a relationship, and I didn't understand why. I found myself just doing all these things that was happening in my childhood, but in my adulthood, and I don't have adults around me. So why the hell is this happening right now? And I was connected to a therapist, and I was put into a season of isolation, and I honored it. And throughout that season of isolation, Lord have mercy, have I learned why. I have learned why I was the way I was. And it was time to put in the work. And healing is the hardest work of all. So how could I be upset because I don't have a certain certificate or a certain degree or a certain physical attribute to show, hey, I've done all these amazing things throughout my 20s. You know what the most amazing thing of all is? I've healed myself throughout my 20s, and I'm continuously healing myself throughout my 20s. I've learned that inner child trauma is real. Not only did I learn that my truth was real, I learned how to tend to that truth. I had such intense moments of emotions that I never thought it was possible for a human to feel. I have spent hours crying and releasing about things that happened so many years ago that I never had the space to release. I severed everything that was no longer beneficial for me. And that was essentially everything, because everything that I was doing in my younger 20s before 27 was unbeneficial for me. So I lost every friendship, essentially. I lost myself, because that person that I was not who I am. It was my trauma that created that person. So I became sober. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. I got into a job, and I reintroduced myself as the person that I am today. I spent a lot of time alone in quiet and in stillness, and I let a lot of time pass. So much time pass because I had to. Because I couldn't go out and do activities that I knew I didn't like just for the heck of it because I'm bored. Instead, I allowed things to come to me naturally, and I started practicing things that came to me naturally that I knew, hey, this is actually who I am, and I do enjoy doing this activity, and I actually do enjoy this person. I can build a friendship with them, or I can, invest my emotional energy into this person because they deserve it. I spent the last years of my 20s being so quiet and being so isolated and being so emotionally vulnerable. I never thought that would actually be the truth. I never thought I would have a season of just such privacy. And I never understood how important it truly is to go through that, to be able to just blossom. Oh my God. There were so many times throughout that isolation mode that I just wanted to pick up the phone and record a podcast and post. There were so many times that I wanted to do what I'm doing right now back then, but I had to work through fear. Fear is crippling. Fear is like a disease. And I grew up in a fearful lifestyle. And so a fearful state of mind was essentially a best friend of mine. And I had to look fear in the eye and realize this is a disease that's crippling my mind, crippling my body, crippling my lifestyle. And I'm essentially not doing anything because fear has become my best friend that I never wanted. Fear has to go now. And I learned that throughout my 20s. And now that 30 is coming around, I'm the most confident I've ever been. I could give a crap about people's opinions or societal standards as to what my life can look like. It feels so liberating to know the truth of who I am, and to not only know the truth of who I am, but to honor it and to live by it and to stand by it and to protect the integrity of me. Child, can't nobody tell me nothing. Okay? Can't nobody tell me nothing, because I finally know who I am and I finally feel powerful enough to protect who I am. And of course, I wish I could have been this stern about myself in the past, but that's allowed me to be even more stern and more confident and more diligent about myself and what I participate in and what I do and I don't allow in my life now, you know? And it's those past mistakes and those past versions of myself that allow me to be who I am today. And there is no right way of doing life. You know, we are all so unique and we all have our own callings and our own identities and our own taste buds and our own skin and our own hearts and our own experiences that make us into these beautiful humans that get to have the blessing of being alive every day and just being present in the world. You know how nice it is to just be present, to not have your phone on you when you're eating, or just taking a moment to just wake up naturally or go to sleep naturally and learn how your body operates and listen to it and realize certain foods work for you and certain foods don't work for you, and just truly learn the balance of what life is and how important and how vital we are to the bigger picture. You know, I could never be upset at what's happened in the past. Nobody should. And if you find yourself being upset about what's happened in the past and you feel like you could have done things differently, well, maybe that's true, but why can't you change things now? If you find yourself stuck and you're upset and you're not happy with yourself, it's never too late. It's never too late. You can choose to literally be different right now. If you feel like you're on your phone too much right now, then put the phone down. If you feel like you're in a relationship that's unfulfilling and you know you have to leave, figure out what steps you need to take to leave. If you know you have peers around you that aren't filling your cup, then you have to cut off the ties to create space for a new community to come in. It's all possible. And yes, it's hard work, but isn't it worth to continue wasting time in something that isn't fulfilling you? You know, at some point you have to take ownership and you have to take responsibility of what's going on around you and figure out why it's going on and take the power and the reins and control back to create a new reality. All truths are real. All realities are real. And you can literally change it at any point in time. You really choose to lock in and do something different. And that's what I've essentially learned throughout my 20s. I've been so many different versions of myself. I've done so many things. I've traveled to so many places. I've met so many people. I continuously continue to meet so many people. I get to choose Just like we get to choose the clothes that we put on our backs and what media we intake and where we're gonna go for the day or what we're gonna eat for the day, like you can choose the future of your life. It's in your control. As somebody who was so controlled in life and terribly controlled at that, the best thing I could have learned was this is my life now. I get the chance to teach myself what it is that I believe in, and I can honor that. If you find yourself having thoughts or doing things and you don't necessarily know where they came from, they're not yours. They were taught to you. And if you feel like that's not for you anymore, unlearn and teach yourself what it is that you need to learn. So, dear Mary B, I'm so proud of you. I love you. I think the woman you're becoming is truly amazing. And just look at you. You've never had skin that shines so bright. You've never had hair that flows so easily. You've never had drip that's this severe. You've never been so freely yourself in your life. And doesn't it feel dang good to be this? The answer is yes. Yes, it is. To all my 20-somethings or anybody that's just living life and hears this message and feels called to change and to own who you are, do it. You owe it to yourself. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. It's truly a pleasure that you have space to hold for me. I do not take it for granted one bit. Until next week, y'all, have a blessed one, okay? Bye-bye.